All praises belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of all the worlds. We seek refuge in Allah from the evil of our souls and the evil of our deeds. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, no one can lead him astray. And whoever he leads astray, there's absolutely no one that can guide him. Beginning with At-Tirmithi. Imam At-Tirmithi's book ranks number 4 amongst the collection of a hadith known as the 6 books. And some people refer to these books as the Sahih Sitta. This is incorrect, as there are weak and even fabricated ahadith in some of those books, except in Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Imam At-Tirmithi's book is a very beneficial book. It's a book of fiqh. It's a book of sciences of hadith in regards to rijal, the narrators. As Imam At-Tirmithi, he explains who they are. Also, he explains the status of a hadith, whether it's authentic or if it is hasan or if it is da'if. For hadith to be sahih, there are some conditions. 5 conditions. The first one is that the isnad must be mu'tasil, meaning that the narrator narrates on the person must have met the person who he narrates on, and the narrator must be trustworthy. These 3 conditions must exist for hadith to be sahih. And the other 2 conditions must be non-existence, which is it must be free from being shadh, which is someone contradicts someone who is more superior than him by either memory or by number. And the hadith must be free from having a defective in it known as ilal, and that is a lengthy topic. Also, Imam At-Tirmithi's book is a book of takhrij. When he says fil bab at the end of the hadith, this means that another Sahaba narrated that hadith. It means that another Sahaba narrated that hadith, and we refer to this as shahid, as a shahid. Imam At-Tirmithi, the first chapter, he begins off with Kitab al-Jami' Jumu'ah. This is what we're going to be studying. He mentions what has been mentioned about the superiority of Jumu'ah. He says, Haddathana Kutayba, Haddathana al-Mughiratu ibn Abdi Rahman, and Abi Zinad, and al-A'raj, and Abi Hurayrata radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال خير يوم طلعت فيه الشمس يوم الجمعة فيه خلق الآدم وفيه أدخل الجنة وفيه أخرج منها ولا تقوم الساعة إلا في يوم الجمعة. This hadith, Imam At-Tirmithi, he says that it is Hasanu Sahih. He says that it is Hasanu Sahih. Now, Jumu'ah, there's different ways to say it. On the meme, you can put a feta, Jum'ah, or you can put a sukun, Jum'ah, or you can put a dhamma on the meme, Jumu'ah. All 3 are correct. This hadith, it teaches us that the best day of the week is Jumu'ah. That the best day of the week is Jumu'ah. This hadith, it teaches us that on Friday, Adam was created. And then after that, he said, وَفِيهِ أُدْخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ, that Adam entered into Jannah. So from this point right here, that we take 2 points in relation to Adam. He was created on Friday, and he wasn't created in Jannah, but rather he was placed into Jannah on Friday, and he traveled from Jannah on Friday as well. He traveled from Jannah on Friday as well. And that the day of judgment will be on a Friday. And then Imam At-Tirmithi, he said, wal fil bab, meaning other Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, they narrated this hadith. And he said, the first one is Abi Lubaba, and his narration is in Ibn Majah. And then we have Salman, his narration is in Bukhari and Nasa'i. And then we have Abi Dhar, and his narration of this hadith is collected by Ibn Abdul Barr in his Tamheed, wa Ibn Mundar. And then we have Sa'd ibn Ubadah, and his narration is collected by Imam Ahmad in his Musnad and Bukhari in his Tarikh. And also we have Aus ibn Aus, and his narration is collected by Abu Dawood in his Sunan, wa Nasa'i in his Sunan al-Sughra, and Ibn Majah with Darimi, and Bayhaqi and Da'watul Kabir. Also this hadith, some people might ask, well, Friday is the best day of the week. But how does that relate to the hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, ما من يوم أفضل عند الله تعالى من يوم العرفة. How do we join between these when the Prophet ﷺ said that there isn't any day more superior with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than Yawm al-Arafah? How do we join between these two? Imam al-Iraqi, rahimahullah, he said that Jumu'ah is the best day of the week. That's what that means. Whereas the best day of the year is Yawm al-Arafah. The best day of the year is Yawm al-Arafah. So this is how we join between these hadith, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. The next hadith, Imam At-Tirmithi, he mentioned, he said, what has been narrated, what has been reported about the hour on Friday in which you can anticipate your dua to be accepted. Imam At-Tirmithi, he said, قال حدثنا عبد الله بن الصباح الحاشمي البصري الأطار قال حدثنا عبيد الله ابن عبد المجيد الحنفي قال حدثنا محمد ابن أبي حميد قال حدثنا موسى ابن وردان عن أنس بن مالك أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال التمس الساعة التي ترجى في اليوم الجمعة بعد العصر إلى غيبوبة الشمس. He said, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, expect and anticipate the hour in which your dua can be answered on Friday will be after Asr until the sun sets. Imam At-Tirmithi, he said, هذا حديث غريب من هذا الوجه. He said that this hadith is gharib. When Imam At-Tirmithi mentions that a hadith is gharib, then this mustalah with Imam At-Tirmithi, and some of the Imams use it as well, it refers to that it is weak. This hadith, it has been reported on Anas, the Prophet ﷺ, in another narration. What makes this hadith weak? As I told you before, there are 5 conditions for a hadith to be authentic, and one of them is that the narrator has to be trustworthy and reliable, and have precision in his narrations and that which he narrates. Even if a narrator, his precision isn't 100%, but he has some flaws, then if what he narrates most of the time is correct compared to what he narrates sometimes, which may be incorrect, then he can go from being a status of sahih, as being thiqatun thabt, to being hasan, to having a hasan hadith. And a hasan hadith is authentic as well. There's a narrator in this hadith by the name of Muhammad ibn Abi Humayd, and he has been considered weak. Due to the fact of his memory. Some of the scholars, Imam At-Tirmithi mentioned from Ahl al-Ilm, and amongst those were the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that they considered it to be after Asr until the sun set. And Imam Ahmad and Abu Ishaq al-Rahaway, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma ajma'een, that they both said that it was after Asr until the sun set that a person should make dua. And Imam Ahmad, he said, most of the hadith about the hour in which a person can expect or anticipate his dua to be answered, it takes place on Friday after Asr until the sun sets, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. The next hadith, Imam At-Tirmithi, he said, حدثنا زياد بن أيوب البغدادي قال حدثنا أبو عامر الأقدي قال حدثنا كثير بن عبد الله بن عامر بن عوف المزني عن أبيه عن جده عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن في الجمعة ساعة لا يسأل الله عبد فيها شيء إلا أتاه الله إياه قالوا يا رسول الله أية ساعة هي قال حين تقوم الصلاة إلى الانصراف منها. The Prophet ﷺ, in this narration, it said that verily on Friday is a time period in which any slave, servant of Allah, asks Allah for something, he will receive it. And they said, O Messenger of Allah, ayyi sa'atin, which hour is this? And he said, it is when the salah is established until the imam leaves. Now, this hadith, Imam At-Tirmithi narrates it, and scholars have considered this hadith to be weak and unauthentic for the fact that we have in the isnad a narrator by the name of Kathir ibn Abdullah ibn Amr ibn Auf. And his narrations, he is narrating on his grandfather who is narrating on his father. He's narrating on his father who's narrating on his grandfather. So this narrations, as the scholars have said, it is weak. Now, there are other reports. As Imam At-Tirmithi, he said, fil bab, an Abi Musa, an Abi Dhar, wa Salman, wa Abdullah bin Salam, wa Abi Lubaba, wa Sa'd ibn Ubadah, wa Abi Umama. There are other narrations which mention this hadith, and they show that this is a possible time in which dua can be answered. And Imam Muslim, in his Sahih, he mentions that the hadith of Ibn Abi Musa, and it is authentic, that it is when the imam sits until he leaves. As the narration goes, Abi Musa radiallahu ta'ala anhu qala sami'tu Abi yaqul sami'tu Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam yaqul fi sha'n sa'at al-jumu'ati hiya ma bayna an yajlisa imamu ila an tuqda salata. It is that hour when the imam sits until he finishes praying. Now, Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah, he said, in joining these narrations, then sometimes it can be understood that maybe one Friday it's after Asr until the sun sets, or one Friday it's possible that it is when the imam sits until he prays. When he goes on the minbar and says Assalamu alaikum, then dua is answered that time until he finishes praying. So he said, in order to be on the safe side, then we can act by both narrations, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Wa subhanaka lahum wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.